Rick Archer, David Chalmers, and Sam Harris. Swami played a prominent role in organizing and participating various interfaith panels and seminars, including speaking at the World Parliament of Religions in Toronto in 2018 and at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Some of Swami's popular talks have been compiled into ebooks: Who Am I? What is Vedanta? And Dissolve into Infinity. They are all currently available in Amazon Kindle. And with this very small and brief introduction, I would like to invite, on behalf of VVC, I would like to invite Swami Sarvapriyanandaji to give his discourse this afternoon. Thank you. Welcome, Swami.
Start with a peace chant. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste and good afternoon, everybody. We are, of course, doing this book, The Nectar of Supreme Knowledge. Most of you, I think, you have the book. We are not doing it verse by verse. It will be impossible to finish it that way because we are having only about one class per month. But what we are doing is selected glimpses. So some verses I'll pick up. This book also is enriched by lots of notes by the author Swami Dhireshanandaji, who is the translator of the Sanskrit original. So he has enriched this book with lots of notes on Vedanta, which makes the whole thing interesting and very informative. So what we will do is we will look at some of the original verses and some of those very informative notes, and then we'll go in for question answers. All right, I'll come to it by doing this verse, and then I'll come to what I'm trying to say. Today I want to do verse number 5. Verse number 5, first chapter. Verse number 5. Vichara, inquiry. You can repeat the verse after me if you like. Samsara dirgharogasya, samsara dirgharogasya, suvichara mahoshadham, suvichara mahoshadham, koham kasya cha samsaro, koham kasya cha samsaro, vivekena viliyate, vivekena viliyate. What does that mean? Who am I? Whose are these worldly bondages? This type of firm discrimination or vichara is the only sure medicine for this long-lasting disease of worldliness. Through discrimination alone will the worldly delusion disappear. Okay, so this is the verse. It's very crucial for understanding Advaita Vedanta, this path which we are walking on. First of all, the problem. Samsara dirgharogasya. A prolonged, chronic, not acute, chronic disease called samsara, worldliness. Not world, worldliness. That it is a disease also we don't know. That's a big problem. If you know it's a disease, one would be up and doing. There's a Bengali song in which there's a line, Jar legeche boja tar hoyeche soja. The one who feels that it's a burden, it becomes easy for that one. As long as we don't feel that it's a burden, we will not seek to alleviate it. We don't feel it's a problem, we don't seek to solve it. We feel that there are problems in life. And when we feel there are problems, we solve it on a case by case basis. There is an argument for spiritual life. Why spiritual life? What's the point of it? What are we trying to solve here? I love that joke about the Wild West, the snake oil salesman. So there's this, in the old Wild West, before modern medicine came into being, there would be these people who would go around selling cure-all. This medicine will cure everything, from hair loss to stomach problems to whatnot, cancer to whatnot. So they are called snake oil salesmen. And one such person was arrested by the sheriff and hauled up before the judge, and he was accused of selling real medicines for imaginary illnesses and imaginary medicines for real illnesses. So what is Vedanta medicine for? What is in fact spiritual life a medicine for? What does it solve? What need does it answer to? And the claim is that all our needs, what we are truly seeking, what truly ails us, that is to be cured by Vedanta, by spiritual life. And what we are truly seeking, we will get that. What we are truly suffering from, that will be cured. There is a very ancient verse in one of the most ancient texts of Sankhya. There's a Sankhya Karika. This text is very, very old because there exists a Chinese translation of the Sanskrit original going back 1500 years. So imagine, the text itself is much, much older than that. Sankhya Karika. And it begins with an argument, I think even now, very relevant, very powerful argument. Why spiritual life at all? The argument goes like this. Dukkhatraya abhighatat jihasa tad apaghata ke hetu drishte sapat apatha chet na atyanta aikantika abhavat. What does that mean? Afflicted by the threefold sorrows. Need not bother about what the threefold sorrows are. We know this is a way of classifying sorrows. Sorrows coming from the environment, heat, cold, earthquakes, stuff like that. Sorrows coming from other living beings, from mosquitoes, or just now somebody was saying there's suddenly an upsurge of snakes in Connecticut. So watch out. Or other human beings, indeed. Needn't be a snake. It could be a human snake. Or problems coming from the body-mind, our own bodies and minds. Adhyatmika, adhidaivika, adhibhautika. These are three classifications of sorrows. Anyway, basically suffering in life. Afflicted by suffering. These ancients, they enjoyed suffering a lot. I mean, didn't enjoy suffering. The subject of suffering, they dwelt on it a lot. I remember I was listening to this talk by a professor of Buddhism from Harvard University, Chris Berlin, recently at a retreat. He was saying, so I'm coming at this from a Buddhist perspective, and we really enjoy suffering. Not that we enjoy suffering ourselves, but the subject of suffering, we will dwell on it. So 3 kinds of suffering. Anyway, the point is, afflicted by all this suffering, human beings, we all immediately, instinctively seek solutions for this. Ways to overcome this, ways to get rid of physical suffering, mental suffering, financial suffering, environmental problems, all of that. We seek to get rid of it. Now, this in itself is not an argument for spiritual life, because the next line says, but there are clear and present means of overcoming suffering. You're sick, go to the doctor if you have insurance. If you are poor, get some money. Easier said than done, but anyway, this is a solution. Whatever, if you're bored, you watch movies or stuff like that. So there are worldly solutions, all sorts of solutions are there. Since there are worldly solutions available, why would you go in for a spiritual solution? It seems vague and difficult and long-term and so on. And the answer is no. These worldly solutions do not work in an ultimate sense. Why? Ekanta atyanta bhava. Two reasons. Simple, very bare, austere logic, but I think this is still relevant. Two reasons why these worldly solutions do not work. One is there is no guarantee. This medicine, best of hospitals, we saw that in COVID. I know a person who is going to who was in his 90s and got COVID, and we thought he was done for in the first wave in New York, and came back happy and fine within 3 days. And so many younger people we know, they passed away. So many people who went to the best of hospitals, they passed away. So many people who stayed at home, they survived. And there are reasons, underlying reasons for all of that. And this gentleman who I'm talking about is going to be 100 this year. He had COVID twice. He's okay. He's doing fine. He's going to be 100 in a week, couple of weeks' time. So there is no guarantee really, whether it is money or medicine or technology, politics. Nothing is guaranteed to solve your problems. It's patchwork at best. And the second one is atyanta. None of them is a complete solution forever. Cure this disease, something else will come along. Eat food now, you'll be hungry in the night or before that, and so on. So whatever we solve, it is not something that is a deep and lasting solution for our pains and sufferings. It isn't. You can do like a regional patch up, but there'll be other areas of problem, and that area also will come back again in some other form. Is there a deep solution? Is there a deep solution to all our problems which will last forever, and we'll take care of it once for all of it together? And spirituality is the only thing that claims, in general, spirituality. I don't mean just Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, all kinds of spirituality. All the great major religious traditions of the world, they say that there is something which will overcome this very existential problems of human life and will give us lasting, deep fulfillment and satisfaction. So here it is said, samsara dirgha rogasya. Of this prolonged illness called samsara. He's calling samsara worldliness and illness, the source of suffering. Come, settle down. Samsara dirgha rogasya, of this world. But it has to be recognized as a problem. A Vedanta master said, we have this deep conviction, unexamined conviction, that I will fix things in this world such that things will be fine for me. I will arrange things. I'm going to make it happen. Somehow or the other, I'm trying, and things will go well for me. And this flies against the mass evidence. Everybody has been trying for centuries, for millennia. Nobody has claimed that the world has given a complete, deep solution for all the problems that they have ever had. Nobody. And we too have been trying. From our childhood till today, all of us have been trying to make me, this one happy in various ways. And can I claim that I have achieved something lasting, deep, which, in the words of the Gita, having found which nothing greater remains to be achieved, being established in which the deepest of sorrows cannot shake me, have I found that firm ground? We must say no, except of lucky few people. Most of us, we have to say no, I still haven't found it. So, deep solution. We think the world will afford us a deep solution. No. It won't. Until we recognize this world itself, this world or worldliness, not the world itself. Worldliness as the problem. Worldliness itself is the problem. Why I'm making this distinction between worldliness and the world is because enlightened people also live in this world. So Sri Ramakrishna was living in this world, Ma Sharada and Swami Vivekananda and the Buddha and Christ and all the great saints of every spiritual tradition. They lived in this world. And yet they claimed fulfillment, peace, happiness. They were able to withstand all kinds of sorrows with some mysterious peace in their heart. So what did they get, which in the middle of the same world which we all inhabit, they were able to attain transcendence of sorrow and attainment of fulfillment? So they cured the disease of worldliness. Samsara Dirgha Rogasya. And it's a chronic problem because it's spread across not only our whole life, lifetimes. We as Hindus believe in multiple lifetimes. Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, Sikhs. So multiple lifetimes. And this worldliness is spread over multiple lifetimes. We have been trying the same thing, various variations of the same thing across multiple lifetimes. If you keep trying the same thing, getting the same results, and you keep trying that same thing all over again, expecting a different result, this is called the definition of insanity. This person does not understand causality. I am doing this X and it gives me the result Y. Now I want some other result. I don't like this result, but I keep doing X again and again and again. I keep getting the same result Y, but I still hope I'll get some other result. This is the definition of insanity. What do we do? I was thinking, when we are immature, we try to rearrange the world. When we start off, we want this kind of a house and this kind of a neighborhood and this kind of a life partner, this kind of a job, this kind of gadgets, all of this, the wish list, the shopping cart, and Amazon shopping cart. This is how we try to make ourselves arrange our lives initially. And then when we become a little more mature, we realize not the things in the world, not what I try to arrange around myself, but what really makes me happy is I, me, myself. So we try to rearrange our lives. That's a more mature approach. So I must get up early in the morning, I must eat healthy, I must exercise, and maybe even meditate a little bit. I must improve myself, buy lots of books in Barnes and Noble on self-improvement, and so on and so forth. That's a wiser way, much wiser way. This is when a person is moved from pursuing materialism, worldliness, to what might be called an ethical, moral, more mature lifestyle. Better understanding of causality, better understanding of karma. From there, I become more ethical. I realize really to be happy is connected with being good. So I try to be ethical, avoid lying, cheating, avoid violence, avoid indiscipline, indulgence, and try to impose a kind of self-discipline on myself, clean up my life basically. And then become more mature. I realize more than the external observances, it's my mind which is most important. So then I try to, the yogas come in, I try to rearrange my mind. See, we have gone from rearranging the world to rearranging my life to rearranging my mind. And that is when you become spiritual. I want to fill my mind with thoughts of God. First, we start off with positive psychology, positive affirmations, and all of that. And then realize the best thoughts to have are the thoughts of God or the divine, of a higher power. I try to control my thoughts. I meditate and even try to silence the mind to see what is beyond the mind. So devotion, meditation, various yogas. I practice all kinds of things. Now I'm cultivating the mind at two levels. One is at the level of dharma, morality, ethics, and the higher level of devotion, meditation, higher spiritual practices connected with the divine. This is all very mature. This is all very wonderful. Far better than the initial attempts to rearrange the world to my satisfaction. And then we finally come to this. So these are all, we're trying to find medicines for the problem of worldliness. First, we tried to solve the problem of worldliness by worldliness. Didn't work. Hasn't worked till now. Maturity shows us then we have to change our lives, make our lives better. That helps. And then we understand we have to change our minds. And that can happen at two levels. At a dharmic level, at a spiritual or yogic level, adhyatmic level. And then we come to even something more subtle, which is what this book, this tradition is all about. It says, Suvichara Mahoshadham. The path of inquiry is the great medicine. One level of medicine is satisfying worldly desires, wealth, power. I remember one piece of worldly advice was given to me when I was a youngster. And I had a mentor in the first and only job I ever went to. And this gentleman told me, one day, a little bit of life experience, giving to the youngster coming into a job. Three things can help you in this world. One is if you're very rich, that can help a little bit. You can cushion, shock absorber. Or if you're very powerful, or if you're indifferent. If you're indifferent, if you can ignore the ups and downs, the shocks of life, if you cultivate that indifference. So, now, Suvichara Mahoshadam, the great medicine of inquiry. So, what is meant here? In spiritual life, now we're talking exclusively about spiritual life. So, we are very mature, we have understood a deep solution requires a spiritual solution. Why? Because all the other solutions are temporary at best, are not guaranteed. And they actually we can see the empirical data, they don't work. For nobody it has worked till now. So for us also it won't work. We must look for something deeper. And we are lucky that a spiritual solution is available. Every civilization of the world has had spiritual traditions. And so a spiritual solution is offered to us. Now, in all these spiritual paradigms, there are different paradigms of spiritual life. I'll quickly touch upon it and then come to the central paradigm, what this approach is all about. One paradigm of spiritual life is there is a deep solution to our problems, and that solution is called God. It's called Vishnu, Shiva, Devi, Jehovah, Allah, Father in heaven, whatever it is. There is a divinity, a supreme power, which is the creator of this world, which is the controller, all-knowing, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, all the omnis. Such a power is there. How do you know if you ask? Believe. We have been told so by our books, by our great masters from the great teachers. Our tradition tells us that such a thing is there. That's called God. So one way of going beyond worldly problems, the disease of worldliness, is to catch hold of something which is beyond the disease of worldliness. That which is beyond the disease of worldliness is God. And then throw ourselves at the mercy of the divine might. God is to be trusted. How do you know? In the Bible, it is given very beautiful. Which of you, if your son asks for a loaf of bread, will you throw stones? So the divine Father, the divine Mother will take care of, has been taking care of us and trying the best, his or her or its best to fulfill all our silly demands. And when we demand spirituality, when we demand devotion, will the Lord not give us devotion? Of course, He'll give us devotion. That's for the first time we are demanding something mature and worth asking for. So yes, the path of devotion, the path of faith, the path of worship, adoration, surrender, which is the mainstream path in all the theistic religions of the world. If you look at Christianity or Judaism, Hinduism, there are widespread theistic practices in Hinduism, or Islam, Zoroastrianism. Most of the world's religions are primarily theistic, God-loving, God-centered. In fact, in the Western world, the Western world has been used to until the modern times, where Christianity mostly, and Judaism, and then incidentally Islam also. These are all God-centered traditions. So they are all about faith in this being beyond worldliness, beyond this world, which is perfect, which is not subject to the sufferings and the ups and downs of our worldly existence. And if you catch hold of that, the promise is, by the grace of that power, you will also be lifted above the limitations and miseries and the darknesses of human life. Swami Vivekananda, when he would introduce spirituality in this country and in India too, his favorite quotes from the Upanishads were Trinvantu Vishve Amritasya Putraha, listen ye children of immortal bliss, Aye Dhamani Divyani Tastu. If there are gods in heavens, the smaller G gods, you also listen, because what I'm going to talk about is something you do not know either. Vedaham Purusham Mahantam. I have realized that infinite being. What kind of infinite being? Aditya Varnam, Tamasah Parasta, brilliant like the sun, shining with the light of being and awareness. Forever beyond darkness, forever beyond the darkness of worldliness, this limitation, this death, this misery, this coming and going, this ever wanting without being quenched. Tameva vidittvati mrityumeti. By knowing that, I mean, it's great that God is perfect, good for God, but what about me? Tameva viditvati mrityumeti. If you know that one, if you realize that one, you will attain to a state beyond death. You will attain to a state beyond mortality, beyond limitation and suffering. What we are all seeking for, you will attain it. Any other way? Nanya pantha vidyate ayana. There is no other path. There is no other path beyond sorrow. Whatever else you seek in and through worldliness will be limited. It will give temporary results and gone after that. And you can go on doing this for lifetimes, which we have been. So this is the theistic path. There is something. There is something. I remember the Swami who introduced me to the Bengali version of this book, Kalipada Maharaj, Shiva Pradhanandaji. So he told me about Gyan Maharaj, who was a disciple of Swami Vivekananda, who used to live in Belur, but long before my time. But this Swami saw him. And he said, Gyan Maharaj, he was blind. And you have to go, you have to introduce yourself. And you would call everybody, I can't translate it in Bengali or Hindi, you'll understand, Apni. Even the junior most people, thou or thee. So he would often chuckle, this Gyan Maharaj, he would often chuckle and say, you know, there is something. That reality, it exists. It's there, it's there. No details. It is there. There is this some reality. Akta kichu in Bengali, even more nice. You would say, Bujlen, akta kichu ache. Akta ache kichu. And then he would chuckle with great delight from his. Well, he was very elevated. So now there is another path. This is one paradigm of spiritual life. This is called the devotional paradigm, the belief paradigm, the faith paradigm. There is something I believe, and by the power of that, by my faith, by my devotion, by my surrender, I shall be taken beyond worldliness. And it works, by the way. I'm not cutting it down, but I'm trying to show what we are doing here and what this verse is about. The second paradigm is the meditative paradigm, the yogic paradigm, where the idea is not faith, not belief. Though faith or belief are important, but not faith or belief, not depending on another entity, but to realize it within yourself, to experience it. Religion is not believing in something, religion is realization. Vivekananda said this when he came here. So religion is realization. If God exists, I should be able to see God. That's how the young student Narendranath Datta becomes Vivekananda. He goes around asking people in Calcutta, great religious teachers, have you seen God? Look at the empirical nature of the question. Have you seen God? Not, does God exist? Do you believe in God? Why should I believe in God? No, not that. Have you seen God? And he got a direct answer from Sri Ramakrishna, who said, yes, I have. And just as I see you much more clearly, and you too can if you follow these practices. Now that's a yogic answer. And it's not a question of belief, it's almost empirical. And I said almost because not with these eyes, but with spiritual practices, one can have validating spiritual experiences, which will validate the claims of religion. So there have been mystics in every religion. In fact, the experiences of the mystics are basically at the core of religion. In fact, not most, all the founders of all the religions, the sources, the prophets and the sages and the avatars, incarnations, at least one side they had was a mystical side. I read this book, I got this book recently. It says Ramakrishna and Jesus, a comparative study, but the name is interesting, Super Mystics. So this is one path of spiritual life, mystical side, where you have a direct experience of the divine. So here, a classic example would be the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, where you're taught how to sit, how to breathe, how to withdraw your attention from outside, and meditative exercises, which the claim is, if you attain to those samadhis, you will actually see for yourself. Then you can't deny it. No amount of reasoning, argumentation, no amount of skepticism will move you anymore, for you have seen. I remember seeing this old video film of an interview with Carl Jung, the great psychoanalyst. And he's asked, so do you believe in God? Professor, do you believe in God? And he says, when I was young, I used to believe in God. And now? So now I don't need to believe, I know. So this I know, it can come maybe sometimes through mystical experiences. Now the thing is, these mystical experiences are extraordinary experiences. They are not experiences which are natural to us. Natural to us is when you're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. This is natural to us. Thinking, understanding, doing scientific experiments. This is natural to us. But mystical experiences are extraordinary experiences by their very nature and definition. And one has to go through an extraordinary process of purification and meditation practices, like the Patanjali Yoga. But there are many others. There is Kundalini Yoga, many kinds of meditative practices in different traditions of the world. So there is this second path, second paradigm, which is a path not of faith, not primarily of faith, not primarily of adoration or surrender, but primarily of meditative exercises and mystical experiences. There is a third path, which is what? All of this was a preamble. This is the third path. In Bengali, they have a saying, Go Chandrika. So before the actual song begins, they have a long preparatory song. This is the preparatory song. So this is, he says here, the great medicine, he says, is not belief, is not even extraordinary mystical experiences. He says, Suvichara Mahaushadam, the great medicine for the disease of worldliness is inquiry. Why inquiry? See, it's like this. According to Advaita Vedanta, what we are seeking, that ultimate reality, it's called Brahman. It is a limitless existence. That means it's there everywhere. It's not limited to one particular place. It's everywhere. It's not limited that after death you will go and realize God. It's not like that. It's after that maybe, but it's also before death. It's in heaven maybe, but certainly it's also here. And most stunningly, it's you. Tattvamasi, you are that. This is the central teaching of Advaita Vedanta. You are that. Now this raises an interesting question. If it is everywhere and it is here, if it is all the time and it is now, if it is everything and especially it is I, here, now, why don't I experience it? Why don't I feel it? Why don't I see it, quote unquote? In some way it should be evident to me. And Vedanta makes a tremendous claim. It is actually evident. We don't see it. It's continuously available to us. Swami, who was giving a talk yesterday in our center, he had come from the Himalayas, from Uttarkashi, Rishikesh. He was saying, so a very interesting thing. He spoke in Hindi and I had to continuously translate into English. Basically, what he was saying is the reason why it's not evident is, he put it in God language. God is a gentleman. If you don't want to have anything to do with God, God also is not going to intrude into your life. God's continuously saying, I am here. We don't listen, so. Another Swami, he is known as the Smiling Swami, Anubhavananda Saraswati. He gives a lot of humor in his same Vedantic teachings. He said, look, these things, examples, snake rope and all, I have been giving shamelessly many times. And you've also been shamelessly listening to it many times, no effect at all. Because that is the nature of our real, it is not affected by anything in the world. Asangoham, untouched by the world. So untouched by any teachings, I continue. Whatever teachings you give me, I will continue exactly as I am. So I shamelessly say the same thing and you shamelessly hear the same thing again and again. No effect at all. So here is the third paradigm of spiritual life. Contrast it with the devotion paradigm, contrast it with the meditation or spiritual experiences paradigm. What is being said here is, unlike the faith paradigm, it's not a question of devotion as such. Of course, sincerity and seeking is important, but not a question of believing and then submitting to an unknown reality. Rather, it's a question of trying to understand, trying to see. It's not even a question of special mystical experiences, samadhis, which are taught in yoga, all of which are valid, by the way. But it's a question of, in our ordinary, quotidian, daily experiences, just now we are seeing and talking, this should be enough for enlightenment. This is the claim of Advaita Vedanta. So Advaita Vedanta, the path of inquiry, vichara, is what is known as the direct path. Because that ultimate reality is directly presented to us all the time, unconditionally available to us. Just as water is available in all the waves, just as clay is available in all the pottery, clay pottery, just as wood is available in all the wooden furniture here, continuously available to us, continuously presented to us. The problem here is ignorance. We don't know it, we haven't been introduced to it, nobody has shown us what it is, therefore we don't see. The problem in the path of faith is lack of faith. You don't believe. If you would believe, it would be easier for you. The problem in the path of mystical experience is lack of control of our minds. If you could control and focus the mind, you would have access. We would have access to those higher mystical states. The problem here is not so much lack of control of the mind, not so much lack of belief, but not seeing, not knowing, not recognizing. Something which is continuously present to us. Vivekananda called it the open secret. So if ignorance is the problem, I'm building up to this point. If ignorance is the problem, the only solution is knowledge. And knowledge always comes by inquiry. You must ask, must inquire. Now it is very easy. Google is, I'm afraid to say Google because immediately it said, how can I help you? It will say, it's listening all the time. So it's inquiry. And this approach is an approach of inquiry. It comes with tremendous claims, good advertising, because this is the royal road of the Upanishads, the source texts of Hinduism. Right here in this country, not far from here. Walden Pond Thoreau, he would spend his time in the retreat reading the Gita and the Upanishads. And he says, when he reads the Upanishads, he says, I live in the light of an earlier dawn of civilization. The clear light of an earlier dawn of civilization. So, a tremendous insight. It's unsurpassed. The philosopher Evan Thompson, University of British Columbia, in his book Waking, Dreaming, Being, which is a book on Vedanta, Buddhism, and neuroscience of consciousness, he makes the claim that consciousness studies did not start now. It's hot now, but it did not start now. It's 5,000 years old. It started in the Indo-Gangetic plains in the texts called the Upanishads. And he says these Upanishads are so significant in human thought that our history should be dated as before Upanishad and after Upanishad. That's how human history should be dated. So this is the path of direct inquiry, the royal road of the Upanishads. Meditative paths and devotional paths, if anybody reads the Upanishads, unbiased mind, you will see it's primarily a path of knowledge and only secondarily a path of meditation or devotion. Those are suggested there, but primarily it is realizing what the reality right now is. So the way to realize that, settle down. He's getting bored.
Take care of him.
That's okay. He's sitting now. It's okay. And the claims it makes, it's directly available to us all the time. Samadhi is something very difficult to attain. It takes years and decades of effort. This is something directly available to us. And it can be had in a twinkling of an eye. Yes, it might take long years of preparation, and many books to be read and many classes to be attended. But when it happens, it can happen in the twinkle of an eye. Instantaneous. And when it happens, it's actually effortless. How much effort is needed to see this? Just open your eyes. This is even easier than that. You don't even have to open your eyes. Whether it's eyes open or eyes closed, it's always presented to us. So this is called the path of inquiry. And we will come across various forms of inquiry. Just as there are various forms of devotion, various forms of meditation, there are various forms of inquiry. I've talked about it many times. The method of the seer and the seen, Drigdrishya Viveka. The method of the 5 sheets of the human personality, inquiry into that. Method of waking, dreaming, seeing, discernment of that. See, all of these things, unlike esoteric, mystical experiences, all of these things, seer and seen. It's right now. Who does not know this? You are the seer and everything else is the seen for you. Who does not have the 5 layers of the human personality? Physical, vital, mental, all of us, we all have it. Who does not here wake and sleep and dream? All of us do. So notice the Vedantic path takes hold of what is already available to all of us. Therefore, in fact, there are many advantages. One is it's already available to us. Second, it's very difficult to overthrow logically. See, path of devotion, faith, it can immediately be attacked, and it has been attacked by skeptics, by atheists, by agnostics. One might just as well say, I don't believe. Even among people who believe in God, there are so many paths to believe in God, so many religions, so many descriptions. Which one to believe? And many of them are exclusive. That this is right and everything else is wrong. So whom to believe? The path of mystical experience. Well, that it sounds empirical. You can experience God. The problem is, first of all, it's rare. Second, it is not common. Because it's not common, the mystic sees it. You don't see it. I don't see it. And therefore, you and I can doubt it. We can say you are high, or you're having a stroke in the brain, or you're high on drugs, or you're hallucinating, or some kind of, you can always doubt it. Mystics, in fact, mystics have always been regarded as being crazy or mentally ill or something like that. But this one is difficult to overthrow logically. It is backed up by fierce, close argumentation and constantly rooted in experience. At every point, it's a shared experience. It's what somebody put it very beautifully, experiential understanding. It's a beautiful way of putting it. Is this experience? Yes. And the beauty of it is common experience all the time. Is this something intellectual? Is it understanding? Yes. But it's both. It's not just a theory. And it's not just feeling something. It's both together. It's an understanding of our experience constantly available to us. So, Suvichara Mahoshadim. What kind of inquiry? Drigdrishya Viveka, Panchakosha Viveka, Avasthatraya Vichara. These are the kinds of inquiry. Koham Kasya Cha Samsara. These are the lines of inquiry. Who am I, or what am I? And this samsara, because I'm saying worldliness is the illness. But who has this worldliness? And he says, Vivekena Viliyate. By this inquiry, the problem will be dissolved. Will it be solved? No, it will be dissolved. It will no longer be a problem. It's those who like philosophy, it's a very Wittgensteinian solution to problem of spirituality. The problem is, question is not answered, the problem is not solved, it's dissolved. It's no longer a problem anymore. So the samsara, the person continues to be in samsara, in world, like everybody else, but it's no longer a problem anymore for that person. And it is available to us through inquiry. Once in a while, it's good to stop and get a taste of this inquiry. Who am I? What am I? Let's do this simple inquiry now. This comes from Vedanta, but actually with roots in Tibetan Buddhism. It's very simple. Right now, you can just sit in a relaxed way. Nothing much to do. And relax, turn your attention to the breath, breathing in and breathing out, just to calm down. Normal breathing. Now, I'm going to put a question. We try to answer it, see for ourselves right now. The question is this: supposing we have no problems at all. No problems. No financial problems, no relationship problems, no health problems, no insurance problems, no spiritual problems, no philosophical problems, no scientific problems. Suppose there was nothing to see. So gently close the eyes. There's nothing to see anyway, so close the eyes. Suppose there's nothing to taste, smell, touch. So the senses are quietened. Suppose there is nothing to hear, but right now you have to hear the instructions. But suppose otherwise there's nothing to hear. So all the senses are quietened. Not seeing anything, there's nothing to see. Nothing to smell, taste, touch, nothing to hear. No problem to be solved in life. No thought to be thought, no feelings to be felt, no memories to be thought about. Nothing more to happen after this. Nothing else will happen. Nothing to wait for. No memories, not looking back. back, no expectations, not looking forward, not concentrating on anything. What is there now? You don't have to answer it, just feel it, what is there. This relaxed sense of being, awareness, which we all feel. It is the background of all our thoughts. Whenever we think, hear, smell, taste, touch. It is the background of all our senses. Thoughts, feelings, perceptions. This awareness is always there. Notice, this awareness by itself has no problems. It doesn't age, the body ages. It doesn't have to pay mortgages. It's the person in the world who has to pay mortgages. It's not concerned with politics. In fact, there's nothing else for it to be concerned with. It just is, it shines. Okay, gently open your eyes. This awareness which I just indicated, it's not Atman, it's not pure consciousness. What it's like is, imagine the bright blue sky which you saw when you came in here. Bright blue sky, vast sky. This is actually a meditation technique in Kashmiri Shaivism. You're supposed to lie down in an empty field, open field, and look up into a cloudless, vast sky. Look up actually without closing your eyes. Look. And so you throw all your thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations, memories into that vast blue openness. And everything disappears there. Now, in 1 second, you're supposed to remove that vast blue sky. Just close your eyes and let it go. What should happen is, it's like a trick. The nature of awareness should become clear at that moment. So what we experience now, just the problem-free awareness which is continuously present at the background of all our mentations, our perceptions, judgments. It's like the vast blue sky. The sky itself is like the mind, a calm mind, thoughtless, emotionless, memoryless, just the calm mind itself. And the luminosity of the sky is like consciousness. And that's also reflected consciousness, Chidabhasa. The source of that luminosity is pure consciousness, Atman. So what we experience is like the vast blue sky. There are two things, there are two things. Quiet mind is there and consciousness permeating that quiet mind, which is the reflected consciousness. Then which is the Atman? That's much deeper. It's like, imagine that itself is so peaceful and so problem-free, what we just experienced. So the Atman itself is beyond that. It's like looking at the mirror. The mirror is like the vast blue sky, the quiet mind. And the face in the mirror is like the luminosity of that sky. But the original face is pure consciousness or Atman. Now, all these methods of inquiry, they're all methods of answering this question, Koaham, who am I? And once you realize who I am, the Atman, pure consciousness, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, Kasya cha samsara, whose is samsara? The question will be dissolved. Nobody's samsara. It's your own painting. Vivekananda said, yes, you are playing with Maya, or the Divine Mother is playing with you. We are all this one background of consciousness, not different skies, not different consciousnesses, one background. We are all one there. Undivided in all beings, appearing as if divided. We are that undivided one luminosity, appearing as if divided into many minds and many sentient beings in many bodies. This is your play, or if that's too much, you can say it's the play of God or play of the Divine Mother, and so on. If the play analogy doesn't work for you, just Vedanta says manifestation, the shining forth of consciousness. It's the radiance of that consciousness. So this is the nature of inquiry. There are specific methods of inquiry, Drigdrishya Viveka, Panchakosha Viveka, and all of that. Now let us do some footnotes which are given. Some beautiful verses have been collected here and some explanation has been given. 3 verses, importance of inquiry. I'll just put them out before you and then go on. On page 15, we have 3 verses collected from different sources. First one, Nityam karma parityajya Vedanta shravadam vina Vartamana. I just read it. Vartamanastu sannyasi Patatyeva na samshayah. It is without any doubt that the monk who renounces the daily rituals and lives a life without listening to Vedanta will certainly fall. It's a warning to monks. Though, what is a monk in a Vedantic tradition? A person who has set out on the exclusive path of spirituality, and especially if you're a Vedantic monk, on exclusively the path of spiritual inquiry, this one, vichara. So the person is supposed to study the Upanishads and the Gita and the Brahma Sutras and books like all of these, and inquiry. Listen, study, inquire, and meditate. And the monk who does not do that, who is the monk who has given up all other responsibilities in life? Doesn't have a family, doesn't hold a job, doesn't, the traditional Vedic rituals which are supposed to be performed by the pious Vedic person, doesn't do any of those rituals, has been set free. This was the grand vision of the Hindu civilization. The goal of life is spiritual realization. For everybody, the goal of life is spiritual realization. If we are not ready for it, and most of us we are not, then what we want, an easier ways are pointed out. All right, so you don't want moksha, spiritual liberation. No. What do you want? I want to be rich. All right, you can be rich. You pursue artha, but always based on ethics, morality. Because if you do pursue pleasure and success and power on the basis of morality, basis of ethics, very soon we will realize we will get some of that. We'll satisfy some of our desires legitimately, without harming society, without creating bad karma for ourselves, without incurring sin. And also we'll quickly realize the ultimate meaninglessness of these pursuits. They serve their purposes, but they will not give us deep lasting peace and fulfillment. If you do it ethically. If you do it unethically, you will get some of it, but the load of bad karma, the sin incurred will be so much, our life becomes too hellish for any spirituality to happen there. Then only we have to go through suffering before we can again rise to this opportunity. But those who wanted spiritual realization, those who wanted that and that only, the path of giving up all the other duties is open to you. And there the monk is warned by this verse. There are a number of such verses which says, if you have taken to this path, you better stick to it. Otherwise, what happens is, Swami Vivekananda saw this when he traveled across the length and breadth of India. He says, this is madness. Thousands of people who do not do anything in society, do not do anything for society, and are not doing the spiritual practices also, wandering about the length and breadth of the country like beggars and being a parasite on the body of the society. So this new kind of monasticism which he set into being, you pursue your own spiritual well-being, but you also contribute to the larger well-being of society. That Atmano Mokshartham Jagatitaya, for your own spiritual liberation and for the welfare of society. But here the point is, if you are a monk or you're a dedicated spiritual seeker, inquiry is your path, and you must stick to inquiry. You must study Vedanta, follow the path of Vedanta daily. Otherwise, you're going to fall away. And fall not from monastic spiritual life to worldly life, so straight into sinful life. Straight from the top to the bottom. There's a saying, Sadhu hona kathin hai, jaise ped khajur, chade to chakhe prem ras, gire to chaknachur. So it's difficult to be a monk. It's in a devotional way to say. It's like climbing the date palm tree, which is difficult to climb. It's like, but if you go there, the date palms are there, which are sweet. So if you climb up there, you can have the sweet juice of the date palms. If you manage to climb up there, but if you slip and fall, you will be smashed on the ground beneath. So it's spiritual life, monastic life is tough like that. So it's a warning here is for the Vedantic seeker. Next. How should you practice daily? Next verse is Gacchata tishtato vapi jagrata swapato piva na vichara param cheto yasyasau mrita uchyate. That person is dead whose mind is not perpetually engaged in inquiry. Discrimination is inquiry. Whether walking, while sitting, while awake, even while dreaming. So they become like this. If you day and night immerse yourself in something, it'll become automatic. And you come in your dreams too. In your dreams also you'll be attending Vedanta talks. That's a good thing. That means your mind has been surcharged with it. It will come in your mind dreams. There is a saying that Amrito Asushuptir Amrito Kalam Nayet Vedanta Chintaya. Until you fall asleep and until we die, spend your time in Vedantic inquiry. That can, I mean, maybe you can't do it all the time, but to a great extent. The Swami whom I mentioned, who had come from India and who gave a talk in the Vedanta Society yesterday. So what happened was there's a minor disaster, a near disaster. I took him out for a walk in Central Park. I knew it was going to rain. There was a warning. I didn't know it was. No, I told him, don't worry. It's not like India. It's a drizzle. It wasn't. It was a full-scale thunderstorm. And I and the other devotees, we tried to protect the Swami, but every one of us got completely drenched, thoroughly drenched. And we made our way back to the ashram. On the way back, throughout the thunderstorm, and while we were drenched, and on our way back to the ashram, somehow dripping water all over, he did not stop talking about Vedanta.
Oh my God.
The devotees who were around us, they said, what were you both going on and on and on about? He was not concerned at all. You know? So, Kalam Naid Vedanta Chintaya. Spend your time in this. What we normally do is, when I'm relaxed, when I'm fine, then I'll do a little bit of, I'll listen to an inspiring talk or read a nice book. But when I'm under pressure, oh my God, I have no time for this stuff. I remember when COVID started, and I was giving a talk on Vedanta, somebody was exasperated. At this time, we have to listen to Vedanta. I said, this is the time to listen to Vedanta. This is the time. What is Vedanta? Is it when you're completely comfortable and then you want to spend a little bit of time? It's called spiritual titillation. A little excitement, some nice new ideas, nice new lectures and fancy philosophy. But the moment I'm in trouble, financial trouble, physical trouble, mental trouble, social trouble, I forget all about it. No. This is meant to help us. That's the test. That's when the you have to walk the talk. That's the proof of the pudding. Oh, is that the correct phrase? Proof of the pudding is in the eating. Yes, that's the proof of the pudding in the eating, where the rubber hits the road. Is that the correct phrase? Yes. So yes, in the middle of suffering, that's where it will work. It should work at that time. If it doesn't work, then something wrong with my Vedanta, or wrong with my meditation or devotion. Then the next one. Nityam vichara yuktena bhavitavyam mahatmana tathan dhakupe patatam vicharo ihavalambanam. The seeker of liberation is called a Mahatma. You, O Mahatma, you must always practice this inquiry. It is the only resort or refuge for one who has already fallen into the dark well of ignorance. All right. Now, the author has given for our benefit 5 kinds of inquiry, various kinds of inquiry classification. One he calls Artha-Anartha Vichara. What is valuable in life and what is not valuable in life? What is worthwhile? What is not worthwhile? What should we really want? What should we want? And what do we want? This inquiry is worthwhile. Why is this inquiry worthwhile? Why not just pursue what I want? I want something, just pursue it. But it's not working. That's what should strike me after few years, few decades, few lifetimes. I have pursued what I want. I've tried to fulfill the desires as they arise in my mind, and I am still not satisfied. And it doesn't seem that I'll really be satisfied. I'll really get anything lasting of lasting value and worth in this way. Then an inquiry rises. What do I want? There's this classic book, Religions of the World, Houston Smith. Until recently, at least, it used to be a textbook for comparative religions, a study of world's religions. Houston Smith, Religions of the World, or the world's religions. It used to be called, less politically correct days, the religions of man, but now it's the world's religions. In that he starts, the first chapter is on Hinduism. And he starts the chapter by saying, How do I talk about Hinduism? It's so vast, so complex, and so varied. Where do I find, a unifying story underneath all of this? What's the plot? What's happening? Very difficult to understand. Then he says, I've got it. Hinduism tells us you can have what you want. That's nice. People smile. Oh, that's nice. But the problem is now, what do you want? What do we want? And often we really don't know what we want. What we seem to want, we pursue it. What we want, if you get it, you should be satisfied. Our wants are satisfied. But no, when we get it, dissatisfied. If we don't get it, frustrated. These are only two possibilities. If you pursue the path of worldly pleasures, only two possibilities are you will get what you want, in which case you will be dissatisfied. All empirical data shows that. And if we do not get what we want, we will be frustrated. So, karma is one of the things we want. Houston Smith says, pleasure. All sorts of pleasure. From the crudest, grossest pleasure of eating a cookie or something like that, up to the finest aesthetic pleasure of, he says Bach, Mozart, classical music, art, the finest kind of pleasures that we have been able to develop. The entire spectrum, it's pleasure, aesthetics. And then there is artha, not just pleasure, but also success and wealth and power and achievement. From becoming a billionaire to building a business empire to building an actual political empire or something like that. So artha, the whole range of achievement and success, that also gives us happiness. We also want that. And then he says, all of it is bounded by what is called dharma, morality. And whether we admit it or not, we want it. We want to be good people. In our own eyes, we are good, or if we are not good, we feel guilty about not being good. So we all want to be good people. Morality. And we want others to be good, especially others. So we goodness, dharma. And beyond all of that, what Hinduism really wants to talk about is moksha, spiritual freedom, where we finally get what we are looking for. The conclusion of the Upanishad says, Yo vai bhuma tat sukham nalpe sukham asti. That which is the vast, that which is the infinite, that which is Brahman. The word bhuma means vast. That alone can be happiness. That alone is happiness. There is no happiness in the limited. We are such creatures that we will never be satisfied with anything, no, as long as it is something limited. We will not stop short of God. We will not stop short of the divine. And if you don't like the God divine language, we will not stop short of the absolute, of pure being, pure consciousness, whatever you call it. There is something, in the words of that old monk, Gyan Maharaj, there is something. We will not stop short of that. Only that is really happiness, so it makes it a sign of maturity in life to seek that. So Houston Smith says, what do we want? We want moksha. But until we own it up, until we are mature enough to admit it, we'll have to go through money and pleasure and success, from addiction to aesthetics, from making just a living for yourself to ruling the empire and whatnot. All of that we have to go through. Then ethics, goodness. No godness, no God without good. So goodness. Then only we rise to spirituality. So what is it that we want? Artha anartha vichara. That which is beneficial for us, that which is not beneficial for us. That inquiry. It's a long inquiry. It's long inquiry. We all do it unknowingly. Even a kid does it when he chooses the toy over his pocket money. It's a good system, Instead of buying it for the kid, you give the kid certain amount of pocket money. You choose either this or that. The basic lesson in economics. Economics is the science of trying to satisfy unlimited human wants with limited resources. First thing you're taught in macroeconomics class. It's a spiritual lesson. I think it's a spiritual lesson. And then we go on trying to understand what is it that we truly want. A truly mature person, when you realize what I want is God, what I want is enlightenment, what I want is moksha, really, and then you are mature. Then you're a spiritual seeker. And we all are. That's why we are here. The second kind of inquiry he talks about is Sara Asara Vichara. What is essential and what is non-essential? What is essential and non-essential in the world? And here he says, the sense objects are unreal, they bring only suffering, therefore they are non-essential. Only the Supreme Self, or God, or Brahman, is its own quintessence. So this is one kind of inquiry. What is essential in life and what is not essential? You realize, at first we think it's essential to have lots and lots of stuff. One gentleman who's a devotee, he lives in Houston, and there was a flash flood, and they got flooded. They lost just about everything, the house, the cars. They had to rush to the second floor. And from there, they watched their cars floating away, and so on. And their house was damaged. Most of the stuff that accumulated over 10, 20 years of marriage, all of that floated away or was damaged. And then they realized afterwards, the gentleman said to me, almost none of it we needed really. Perfectly all right. It's all gone. Perfectly all right. I mean, you might say it's a devastating loss. It isn't, because the insurance covered most of it. It's scary. It is a huge trouble. But the insurance took care of us, and really I haven't had any major setback. And I got rid of lots and lots of stuff. And I realized, asara, non-essential, sara, sara, vichara, the flood decided it for him. What is essential, what is non-essential. Simplification of life. Who's there? The famous teacher of simplification, Marie Kondo or someone? Marie Kondo, yes. She has some principle. When you before getting rid of things, keep it all and touch it and see if it makes you happy or not. Makes you happy, keep it. Doesn't make you happy, get rid of it. Good principle. Sara, sara, vichara. What is essential in life and what is not essential in life. It takes a lot of maturity. This thing, if you do that, you will find your conclusions keep changing over a lifetime. What is essential, what is non-essential. In Reader's Digest, I read about this gentleman. It's a true story. He was a professor. He had a huge collection of books. And as he retired, he gave away most of the books. And he just kept the classics of Western literature. Classics of literature and philosophy. And then later he gave those away also. And he says at the end, all I need now are my rocking chair and my glasses and my Bible. Sara, sara, vichara. It won't do to jump ahead. One must have a little experience first. One can't read this stuff. Okay, I've got it. All I need is Brahman now. But we have got it there. This will not agree. It still wants a little bit of that, little bit of that. So Sri Ramakrishna would say, Shomai Haini, the time hasn't come yet. You experience, taste the word a little. Taste it, but also test it. Upanishads has a very interesting line. Parikshya lokan karmachitan brahmana nirvedamaya nastya krita kritena. Having examined life, examined the world, the brahmanas, the seekers of truth, the seekers of Brahman, having examined life, gone through life, but with an inquiring mind, with an alert mind. So I did this, I tasted this, I had this experience. What did it do for me? Should I go on repeating it? Variations of it? Will it work? So tasting this, testing life, testing the world, the Brahmanas, the seekers of Brahman, arrived at dispassion, arrived at the great renunciation, the great turning away. Why? Nasti akrita kritena. That which is unproduced, unborn, immortal, cannot be produced by action in this world. Whatever is produced by action will come and go. Whatever, physical, mental, economic, it will come and go. The only result of all these comings and goings will be experience. Gita Krishna says to Arjuna, Sarvam karma kilam partha jnane parisamapyate. What, oh Arjuna, what a devastating statement for a man about to engage in war. Oh Arjuna, whatever you do in this life and lifetime sense, whatever you do in this world, the only thing you will take away from it is experience. Not people, not kingdoms, not money, not even learning, not even memory. A trace will remain, but maturity is what you take away. Basically, he says knowledge is what you take away from here. That's all. All actions, O Arjuna, culminate in knowledge. Knowledge is that kind of maturity that we get. We may not even remember See, this is not a knowledge which you remember like your college courses, not like that. Luckily, it's something that's deep in our very constitution. When we are born again in the next lifetime, we have a different orientation. We don't know why. We know that. We have a kind of unremembered being there, done that. So you go ahead. And then there is another Heya Upadeya Vichara, rejectable and acceptable. So this is born of the first two inquiries. When you see what do you want and what you don't want in life. And second, what is essential and what is not essential. Then it follows, what should I accumulate in this life? What should I not accumulate? One of the reasons I became a monk was I would look at the monks in the monastery near our house. So these are the guys, look, they don't have a husband or a wife or children or grandchildren. They don't have houses. Well, they have a nice monastery, but it doesn't belong to them. They don't have money. They don't have cars. They don't have gadgets. They have a strict life from morning till evening. And they are happy. And those who have all of that, my mom and dad and uncles and aunts, they're not all that happy. These people seem more happy than that. What do we accumulate in life, really? What should we accumulate? What should we give up? Then the next one, I will not go into details because we need time for Q&A. Just mention it. The next one is the discrimination, that is inquiry into the meaning of the texts. Shastra, Pramana, Tatparya, Nirikshana, Vichara. Okay, I'll give you the executive summary version of it. The inquiry into Vedanta itself. What do these texts mean? It's very easy to take away because we can all straight away say, if anybody asks you all this Vedanta, what does it mean? Tattvamasi, you are that. There's an ultimate reality and you are that. That's what Vedanta means. But to arrive at that, it requires what is called, there's a term for it, hermeneutics, textual inquiry. So it's a vast science, and it was developed by the philosophy called Purva Mimamsa. The inquiry, Mimamsa means reverential inquiry, Pujita Vichara, a reverential inquiry into scripture, in order to determine what does it want to say. And there is a method of doing it. This is called Vedic hermeneutics, the way of interpreting Vedic texts. What's the way? I just mentioned it, won't explain here. It's called a Shadvida Linga, six-fold method, a machine made of 6 components. You put your text into that machine, the meaning will come out. Meaning means the purport, the essence of it. In Sanskrit, it's called Tatparya, intention. What is it? In Hindi, they say, "Aakir kehna kya chahte ho? What do you want to say?" One gentleman used to say to me, "Moti baat bolo, tell me the essence, the gist of it." So the gist will come out if you throw the text into the machine. Not just Vedic text, any text. So what's this machine? It has 6 components. The components are Upakrama, Upasanghara, Upapatti, Abhyasa, Apurvata, Phalam, Arthapatti. Okay, these are the 6 technical terms. What do they mean? They are Vedic terms. They mean beginning and end. Upakrama, Upasanghara. So any text, if it's logically written, systematically written, if you read the beginning, maybe the first 1 or 2 lines, or first 1 or 2 paragraphs, and the end, last 1 or 2 paragraphs, you will get a general idea of the essence of the whole essay or the chapter, maybe even a book, if it's well written. The second is, so Upakrama, beginning, Upasanghara, conclusion. If you read those 2, you'll get an idea. A politician giving a speech. We have elections here and in India and all of that. So if you hear a politician's speech, what's the beginning and end? If you look at it, give me votes. That's what you'll get it. All right, I get it. So there are texts which deal with this. And in fact, this is such an intricate subject. I've heard of a text, I haven't read it. It's called Upakrama Parakrama, the power of the beginning. So how you begin. The second thing which indicates the meaning of the text is called Abhyasa. Abhyasa here means repetition. What's the one point being repeated across the text? It may not be in the same language. It will be written in different ways, but something is they're trying to suggest. In the 6th chapter, the classic example is 6th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad, Vedanta, the Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter, 9 times the same thing has been said. Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi, you are that, you are that, you are that. It's called Abhyasa, repetition. So we know the meaning of these texts is you are that. Then there is something called Upapatti. Upapatti means reasoning. So there will be a line of argumentation in a text. If you look at the text, there will be some reasons and there will be some conclusions. If you look at the reasoning and the conclusion, you begin to understand what they want to say. So in the Upanishads also you'll find all kinds of reasoning. Just as, for example, all pots, is a very simple thing. In all pots are made of clay, so all beings are made of existence itself. So that's a line of reasoning. That it wants to prove that there is one limitless existence called Brahman. So that's the line of reasoning. Then there is something called apurvata, uniqueness. What is it that you find in this text which you don't find elsewhere? It tries to tell you something new. So every research paper, for example, it must come to some new conclusion or disprove something else, prove something or disprove something. It can't just repeat another one, then it will be plagiarism. So this is called apurvata, uniqueness. That uniqueness is the message of the whole paper. The scientific paper, the uniqueness of it will be the message of it. Then there is phalam, result. What is promised? Look at what is promised. If you look at the promise, I will transform the economy, everybody will get jobs or whatnot, inflation will come down. Okay, so that's what's being promised if I give him the votes. So by the promise, you understand the message of it. You will go beyond all suffering. That's the promise. So spiritual realization is being talked about here. And arthapatti, which means praise, eulogy or praise. Praising also shows what is being praised there, what is being advertised. All right. So these are the six-fold method by which you inquire. This is inquiry. But what kind of inquiry? Inquiry into texts. This is how you systematically study a text. But this is just the outline of it. There's a lot in there. And finally, which I will not explain, which is what we will be doing all throughout these classes. Fifth one, Atma Tattva Nirikshana Vichara, self-inquiry. Self-inquiry. Who am I? That is the whole point of it all. Self-inquiry. And the various processes will be taught. Good. Let me do a peace chant and then we'll take a few questions. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Couple of examples I just had came to my mind about Sara Vichara, essential and non-essential. So we're just reading in our ashram in New York. Swami Ramakrishnaanandaji, Shashi Maharaj, one of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, direct disciples. His picture will be here somewhere. There, I think, yeah. Third from the end, this side. He is the one who founded the Ramakrishna Monastery in Chennai, in Madras. Anyway, so in his younger days as a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, there's a very interesting story, two stories. One is, so he was a youngster coming to Sri Ramakrishna, being taught meditation, prayer, and so on and so forth. He loved studying. He was a good scholar, and he had become fascinated with Persian. And he purchased some textbooks of Persian. He wanted to appreciate the poetry, Persian poetry in its original. He was learning that. And he was so engrossed in it. One day, he was studying, and he didn't hear Sri Ramakrishna calling. Then Sri Ramakrishna called him and said, if you do that, you're not going to realize God. And Ramakrishnaanandaji, Shashi Maharaj, this is an ideal disciple. Just that indication was enough. He took all those books which he had purchased and he immediately went and threw it into the Ganga. And that's it. One day, he was in a hurry going through Sri Ramakrishna's room. He walked in a hurry. He was looking for something, some item he's looking for. And he didn't notice Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on the bed there in meditation. He was deeply absorbed. As Shashi walked in, unmindful, didn't notice him, Sri Ramakrishna suddenly said, that which you are looking for is here, is here, is here. And Shashi suddenly was startled, looked around. He found Sri Ramakrishna sitting like that in ecstasy. And he says that it revolutionized his mind. Here it is, the divinity in this form. And that became the ideal of his life for the rest of his life. And his whole life was, that's why his name was Ramakrishnananda, one whose bliss is in Ramakrishna. It is here, it is here, it is here. And it requires an ideal student also to catch it immediately and transform one's life completely. Second example, this is Shashi. Another example is Hari, Swami Turiyananda, who was a great Vedantic. So that's the fourth one from that side,
Yeah.
Swami Turiyananda. One day, as a youngster, when he was coming to Sri Ramakrishna, he didn't come for quite a long time. He was a committed spiritual seeker, very austere in his habits, teenager. And he was studying Vedanta, all these texts he was studying very seriously. He would occasionally come to visit Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna asked, why don't I see him anymore? Harinath, why don't I see him anymore? They said, oh, he's busy studying Vedanta. I said, all right, that's good. The next time Harinath came, Sri Ramakrishna said to him, hello, I hear that you are studying Vedanta, and that's very good. But tell me one thing. Vedanta tells you that Brahman is real and the world is false. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Isn't it so? Or does Vedanta tell you anything more? And if that is so, why not give up the false and catch hold of the real? That's all you're supposed to do. And Harinath, Turiyananji says, that revolutionized his inner mind. Immediately, see, in their case, the mind becomes tremendously focused. One in a Vedantic way, the other one in a devotional way. Ramakrishna in an utterly devotional way towards Sri Ramakrishna. But for Harinath, Sri Ramakrishna, a skillful teacher, his ideal was the Vedantic realization that I am Brahman. Good. Then settle down on it. Why are you going round and round, I just mention this. The Swami who came and gave a talk yesterday, he made a beautiful point. He said, why is it he's been meeting Vedantic seekers and scholars and teachers for a long time, for the last 30, 40 years. Why is it? Sometimes, after years and years of Vedantic study, I've seen them becoming sad and depressed and unhappy and shaken in life. Not really. The goal was overcoming suffering and attainment of fulfillment, but they're not getting it. So somebody who's been pursuing Vedanta for years and years and not getting the result. In Vedanta, in the text also, you come across this question. If you do inquiry into Vedanta, you should get Vedantic knowledge realization, and that should take you beyond suffering. But I don't know if you have got Vedantic knowledge or realization, but I can clearly see you have not gone beyond suffering. You have not solved the problems of your own life. Why is that? The point is, we don't know who's enlightened or not, but we can see clearly the person has not solved their problems of their life. That we can see. And if you have made it conditional, enlightenment means truly you have solved the problems of your life. You have gone beyond shoka. Tarati shoka matmavit. It means the knower of the self transcends sorrow. And if I have not transcended sorrow, that must be a sign that something is wrong. But what is wrong? That person is immersed in Vedanta. He says, I have known monks, I have known scholars who spend their whole lifetime immersed in Vedanta. They teach, and they're convincing teachers. And he says, his thesis was this. There is a possibility that one may remain immersed in a mental kind of Vedanta without it ever becoming real in their lives. I know all the arguments, and I'm convinced of the arguments. I believe in them. They all seem right. I understand the logic behind them, and it seems real to me. But it seems real only in my intellect. In my desires, my grudges, my complaints, and the actual blows of life which come. Severe physical pain, insult and failure in life, tremendous ups and downs, lack of fulfillment in life. These come and you are unable to handle it because they are not at the intellectual level. Intense emotional pain is not at the intellectual level, it's at the pranic level, at the level of the heart. So I may believe one thing, it's as good as understanding some kind of scientific theory. You might be a great scientist, you might be a great philosopher, you might be able to teach Vedanta and even convince others about it. You got the logic down right, but it's still not accepted at the level of your heart. He says one might think about Vedanta, one might reason about it without quite really accepting it that I am that. He classified it in this way. He said, so in Vedanta there can be three levels. In Vedanta we talk about three levels of truth. Pratibhasika, Vyavaharika, Paramarthika. Paramarthika means ultimate truth, which is Brahman, existence, consciousness, bliss. Vyavaharika means transactional truth. It is like we are sitting here, I am this person, you are that person, you're sitting here and listening to Vedanta. This is the world we live in. This is our transactional world. The world of our waking lives, what we consider my life. Common sense. This is called the Vyavaharika, transactional level. And there's a Pratibhasika level, a world of appearance, thought, imagination, dream, entirely in our heads. Now, the insight, which this is common Vedantic framework, 3 levels. So a dream is in your head. Waking life is transactional, but Brahman is the ultimate reality. Now, the unique insight which this Swami shared was Vedanta also can be at, or Advaita, non-duality, can also be at these 3 levels. There can be a Pratibhasika Vedanta. I never heard the term earlier. He coined it. There can be a Pratibhasika Vedanta, Vedanta which is entirely intellectual and mental, which you read and you listen to lectures and make notes and you understand and think about and like it also. You find it fascinating and interesting, but it's like imagination compared to the reality of this world. It has not been translated into this world, let alone being the ultimate reality. So it's not Vyavaharika Vedanta. I can understand all of that and yet struggle in my day-to-day life. He says that should not be. The texts don't support that. If I have understood it to be that we are one reality, I really understood it, then I should not be jealous of anybody. I should not be afraid of anybody. I should have constant feeling of oneness with everybody, a kind of inclusivity of the whole world. No feelings of hatred or dislike for anybody. The tall order, but it should happen. It should logically follow. And if it doesn't follow, he says, then we have to make an effort to translate what is entirely mental, what is entirely intellectual, into practical life, into day-to-day life, before it becomes ultimate reality. Translate the mental reality into practical daily reality until it becomes the ultimate reality. From Pratibhasika Advaita to Vyavaharika Advaita to Paramarthika Advaita. A good way of putting it. It's there. The texts are like this only, but it's a good warning.
Isn't that same thing as Manana and Nididashana?
It is, but the thing is, Manana means reflection. It has been defined as reasoning. So one can say that, yeah, I do a lot of Manana and I've reasoned it out and I've got all the answers and I've got all the logic right and I can convince you also. Then why are you unhappy? Why are you grumbling? Why are you selfish? Why are you irritable? No answer. Because I understand it here, I don't understand it here. I know it here, I don't accept it here. That transition, for some it happens, and then you say they're genuinely spiritual people. For others it doesn't happen. So he says one must make an effort to live it. That's why he called his talk Living Oneness. He said, why living? Make it an effort to live it. Before you become enlightened, try to live it now, struggle to live it now. You will see it's difficult, it's not easy. But that difficulty itself is the sadhana in Advaita Vedanta, not just reasoning. Good point. I like that point. Another Swami, don't forget your question. And don't forget the question. Keep on. Another Swami, he put it this way. I liked it very well also. He put it this way. You know how you listen to Vedanta? He said, keep listening, attentively keep listening, attend to what is being said. Shravana, attend to what is being said. Listen attentively until your attention suddenly switches to the listener. Listener, you. You're listening. Tattvamasi, Brahma, Dridrishya Viveka, Panchakosha Viveka, all these methods and philosophies. You listen attentively. Suddenly, your listening will switch, attention will switch from the listening to the listener. It happens. You will realize, oh my God, this is what I am.
Yes.
Attend carefully to the mirror and the reflected face. Suddenly it will occur to you, that one is here. That one which is being described here in the mirror, so clear, that one is actually I. Then it's done. Or at least then it begins really. Yes. I'll come to you. Can we get the microphone here? Yes. Raise your hand so that they can pass the microphone down. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Pronounce Maharaj. From me and from my friends, they couldn't make it today. I listened to a talk, and this is Swami Dayananda Saraswati's disciple. He has a center, and he said this Shravana Manana Nididhyasana technique worked for a lot of devotees of Dayananda Saraswati in India. But when he came to the West and started teaching this, it did not work because each person comes with their own scars. And so he suggested that unless all your mental and emotional scars have been removed, Vedanta doesn't take root in you. So apparently, Dayananda Saraswati made them all write all their problems and offer it as a prayer to God. Apparently, God is Mahavalidator, he called. And this Swamiji started doing that. And every day he would write. And one day he realized it disappeared. And then Vedanta took root in this.
It's a good point. It should not be taken as disheartening. Do you have a specific question or this observation?
This is just observation, and I'm wondering if it will work for me.
Yes. So it's a good observation. I'll just say this. Don't take it as disheartening. So I have to go through decades of psychoanalysis before Vedanta is going to work for me. No. One can concurrently do that. But there's a good insight here. It's not so much India and the West. It's what is Vedanta demands an adhikari, a fit person. And if you look at what is meant by fitness in Vedanta, it's basically what today's world we would say a person who's got his act together, who's cleaned up his life and got his act together. Basically a person who is at least emotionally doing well in life. Then you're ready for Vedanta. If I'm struggling in many other ways, that will also hamper my Vedantic inquiry. I'll keep bringing in my baggage into Vedanta and demanding that Vedanta should solve that. Let's put it in another way. A scalpel in a surgery, a very fine instrument, can be used to do surgery on nerves, but it can't be used to shovel dirt in the garden. For that you need a shovel, and the shovel cannot be used to do surgery. Now, Vedanta is like the fine scalpel. Everything is done, set. Now the final knot of ignorance is to be removed. With a scarred mind, with a heavy load, what happens is that itself will not allow Vedanta to take hold and will not allow the burst of illumination to come forth. And even if somehow by some grace or some coincidence one begins to get an insight, that same load will not allow that insight to manifest in my life and give me the results of Vedanta, which is cessation of sorrow, attainment of fulfillment. I will keep saying, but I'm not getting the benefits. I'll complain. What was promised is not coming. It's not the fault of the text, not the fault of the techniques. It's the fault of the instrument which I'm using. It hasn't been cleansed, it has been prepped really. So what we need is Gita and the Upanishads, they all suggest practices for this. The Sadhana Chatushtaya are the practices. In Gita also, you will find the characteristics of the enlightened one are the practices for those who want enlightenment. Basically, the characteristics of a saint. What good are they to me? They are practices for me. I can't do them right now, but if I can try. Does psychoanalysis, therapy help? I wouldn't say it doesn't help. I think it does to some extent. To the extent it does, it helps. With the practice which you mentioned is a kind of Vedic yajna of all fire sacrifice of all my problems. So you write it down and then offer it to God in the fire. It has a powerful effect on the subconscious. One can try that definitely. Only thing is, don't be discouraged. I have to then do decades of psychoanalysis. I have to get a therapist before I go to a guru. No, you don't have to. Just settle down the mind as much as possible.
I have one more question. May I?
Yes. In the microphone, yes.
Page. I'll give it to someone else. Find the page.
All right, the person there should ask the question. I can circle back to you. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Namaskar, Swamiji. My name is Shubir. I've been watching your videos and attending your classes. In the beginning, I was probably getting 10%. Now I'm starting to get more like 25%. So, pardon my ignorance. I have many questions, but I'll just ask two. So the first question is: I've lived my life this far being devotional and believing in faith. So, what you call theistic Hinduism. What I learned today is that yogic or the meditative paradigm is what Vedanta teaches us.
No, the Vedanta teaches us the inquiry paradigm. 3 paradigms: the devotional paradigm, meditative paradigm, and inquiry paradigm. The faith paradigm, the mystical experience paradigm, and the inquiry paradigm.
Okay, and then that makes sense. I'll have to think about it a little more.
Yes.
The other question is, the word that one of the shlokas was nitya vicharatena. So it was always discern and inquire.
Yes.
And so my daughter,
Yes.
So my daughter, who was here for the last class, always tells me, Baba, you must never judge. Okay. But what this is telling me that you should always discern and inquire, which is essentially you should always be judging.
No, judging is a value judgment.
Okay.
Inquiry is an inquiry into the truth. What's going on here? That's the inquiry. That's something good for everybody. I mean, whether you are a school kid or a grown up, not that you have to be like a logical machine, like a computer, but use the intellect, in day-to-day life and in spiritual life also. It's the greatest gift God has given us. Swami Vivekananda says, a man must not only have faith, must have intellectual faith too. The intellect must say, yes, this is possible, it is true. If the intellect says, this is all superstition, and the faith says, I believe in God in this way, there will be a huge conflict. And the conflict is dangerous because faith can catch hold of something. Intellect, if it says no, then there will be what is called cognitive dissonance in the mind, and faith will be damaged. Intellect must at least say that this is possible. It's not impossible. This is possible. The earlier question which you had about meditation and it's not options that either I'll have a devotional paradigm or a meditative paradigm or an inquiry paradigm. Swami Vivekananda said all 4 components of work, of worship, of meditation, and knowledge should be in our spiritual life. So have a harmony of all the yogas. One of them might be primary, depending on your mental makeup. You might be primarily a jnani or a bhakta, but never make it exclusive. I'm only a thinker and nothing else. Or I only believe, but I don't want to think. No, I'll think and I'll believe and I'll meditate and I'll serve. All 4. And Vivekananda said it's a harmonious spiritual life and a safe and wholesome spiritual life. Who else? Yes, please pass the microphone down there. Raise your hand. So they'll pass the microphone to you. Oh, did you have a question also? Yeah, I'll come to you next. And then you ask the question. Tell us your name and ask the question.
Hello.
Yes.
Swamiji, thanks for the session. I wanted to ask, like you told about the karma. So what I thought always karma has confused me because everybody born in a different way in the world, and everybody doing things because they're born in a different way. So how do you judge, or how do you actually measure karma? And is it because we born in a suppose a thief is born to a family very bad, that's why it's doing that? So you just make it as a karma, then should I blame God, or like how do you actually
Let's not blame anybody. We'll just basically just say, we all have a conscience. We all have a sense of right and wrong. And so to struggle to do the right thing, that is dharma, good karma, and to give in to what I know is wrong and keep on doing that is bad karma. Even if I'm doing bad karma helplessly, sometimes one may do it helplessly, maybe habits, addictions. At least the struggle to overcome those habits and addictions, that should be encouraged.
Yeah, but when I suppose, let's say that I'm born in a thieves family, my habit is always keep on stealing,
Yes.
stealing and stealing and stealing. So I cannot. So because I born in a thieves family, that's why. Then how do I say that that's a karma? Because I born in a particular way.
True, what the society and the family has its effect, but what Vedanta and spiritual life, all of it gives a lot of emphasis to your personal agency. That ultimately we determine. Today we are what we have made of ourselves in past lives, and how we react to life now will determine what I'm going to be in this life and the future. If we continuously blame others, then there is no way out. We'll just sink lower and lower, become weaker and weaker. And our suffering will keep on increasing. By blaming others, our suffering does not go down. The problem is we can't transfer our suffering to others.
I know, but then when there is nobody in my family telling me right or wrong. Like I do not introduce to a Swamiji like that. Then that is actually.
Well, it comes about. We are all born with a certain innate sense of right and wrong. For example, sense of justice. Even a little child will know what is fair and what is unfair. And we have a sense of right and wrong. They say it's biologically embedded in us. You were talking about a thief. The great philosopher Kant, he said, what I would want to be a universal law, that is moral. So even a thief doesn't want everybody else to be a thief. A person who's a thief is stealing does not want everybody else to steal from him too. He would rather that other people are not thieves so that he can steal from others. He would rather that his own children or somebody he loves not be a thief, because there must be some sense of it's not quite right.
Maharaj,
Yes.
Valmiki was a thief.
And was reformed, huh?
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yeah. So there is two things. You might say there is no sense of conscience. Well, there is what is called the law of karma. Either I will learn from my own conscious, my internal suffering, or there will be external suffering imposed upon me. So bad karma will lead to a lot of suffering. Then I will learn. It's much better to learn from one's own experiences, from one's own thinking and conscience, rather than by kicks and blows from life. Yes.
Pranam Swamiji, the four vichara you mentioned in this, but all the first three can be summarized into one inquiry or selection which was told by Lord Krishna. It's a Shreya and Preya.
Yes, that is from the Upanishad. Shreyascha Preyascha. In Katha Upanishad, it's there. The good and the beneficial both come to every sentient beings at every moment.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Right now, a choice is coming before us. Every moment, each of us, there's some choice of what to think, what to say, and what to do. Some of those things are pleasant and natural to us. Some of those things are actually beneficial and better for us. If the two are similar, you're lucky. What you like is also good. But in most cases, what we like is not what is good, and what is good is not what we like. If they were the same, we always liked the good. We found what is good to be pleasant. We would be saints by now. The fact that I am not a saint right now is because there's some divergence between what is pleasant for me and what is really good. So this choice is coming before us every moment. What to think, what to say, and what to do. The pleasant and the good. And then the Upanishad goes on to say, the one who consistently selects the good will attain the goal of life. Goal of life is moksha, but he doesn't say that also. Whatever goal of life you set for yourself, you will attain it if you consistently select what takes you to that goal. And the one who keeps on selecting the pleasant consistently will fall away from the goal of life. Any more questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Just one more question. In Mundaka Upanishad, we have this Jnana Nishta, and in Bhagavad Gita, we have this Siddha Praksha.
Yes.
Are they same or different?
Mundaka Upanishad, the Brahmanishta is there. Jnananishta, what is not? Brahmanishta, Brahmavit or Brahmanishta. Yes, depending on how you define Jnana-Nishtha. Sthitabhagya is a Jivan Mukta, is a fully enlightened person.
Right.
Who is realized I am Brahman and can manifest in life, can live that life.
Yes.
It's not just a mental Advaita, not even a Vyavaharik, it's Paramarthik Advaita for that. That person has realized the ultimate truth and it shines in that person's life. And the Jnana-Nishtha, Mundaka Upanishad also, it means the same thing here. Brahma-Nishtha, I think, Brahmavit, I think it's there. But there is another level of Jnana-Nishtha which is used among the monks in Uttarakhand, which is one step lower. You are fully conversant with Vedanta. You believe in it, you are convinced about it, and you're trying to live it. You're dedicated, your life is centered in Vedanta and you're trying to manifest in life. It's still a struggle, it's a sadhana going on, but such a person is very advanced. They are usually, the saintly masters whom we meet. They may not be full-blown enlightened Jivan Muktas yet, but they are pretty far along. Jnana-Nishtha or Brahma-Nishtha is sometimes said.
Thank you, Swami.
Last question, yes. You remember?
Yes, yes.
Respected Swamiji, my name is Ramanath.
Yes.
The question is there something called a separate heaven or hell, or this world itself is the hell or heaven?
World is certainly hell and heaven, world and hell and heaven, all of it. But yes, we believe as a matter of faith in most religions, not most, all religions, they believe in other levels of existence which are horrible, which are called hells. And there are other levels of existence which are much finer than this level, called heavens. So Hinduism believes in Chaturdash Bhuvana, 14 lokas, 14 worlds, or 14 planes of existence. They are all here, but they're different levels of vibration. They're like different worlds. Some are much better than this world, some are much worse than this world. Those who have a lot of good karma, after death, they go to those higher worlds for some time, and then they come back again. Those who have very bad karma, they go to those lower worlds. After some time, they come back again. What are they like? As far as we can discern from the texts, they're mostly like having a very pleasant dream, having a nightmare. It's a place of suffering or a place of enjoyment. But in both cases, no new karma is possible. You come back here and build up new karma again. And this world being a place of heaven and hell, I'm reminded of an old Zen story. Very nice, I liked it. There was a Zen master, very famous in Japan, medieval Japan, and a samurai, swordsman, warrior, goes to the Zen master and says, "Hey, you, teach me heaven and hell. What is heaven and hell?" Same question, teach me. And the Zen master calmly said, "I don't have time for fools like you." And the samurai was furious. "How dare you speak to me like this?" And he draws his sword. "Don't you know I can cut off your head just like that?" And Zen master said, "That is hell." And immediately samurai realized, he put his sword back and he bowed deeply to the master and said, "I'm very sorry." He said, "That is heaven." Teach me heaven and hell right here. This is heaven and hell. Last question, yes. Acha, yes.
He was in the queue.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Swami, to follow up on a question that was asked earlier, what is the difference between the mystical experience one has under the second paradigm and the experience one has under the third paradigm when ignorance dissolves and knowledge dawns? It seems
Yes.
the latter would be mystical as well.
Yes. But the latter would also seem mystical for the person who realizes it. But I'm making this distinction. The mystical experiences which mystics of different religions have, notice, they begin and they end. So Sri Ramakrishna wants to see Kali, wants to have a vision of Kali, and tries and tries and tries and cries and cries and prays, and finally has this tremendous, overwhelming vision of Kali. The world disappears for him, the body disappears, and he has this experience. Notice nobody else is seeing it. He's seeing it. And then that experience comes to an end. And is left with, awash with bliss and joy, and it's unforgettable. But it comes to an end. And it comes back again and again in his life. None of them are common experiences. Only he has them. Others around him, they don't have it. They begin and they end, and they are all extraordinary. Whereas if you would distinguish that from the Advaitic realization that I am Brahman, the circumstances of those experiences are commonplace. Seer and the seen right here. And when you do realize, oh, I am this limitless awareness to which entirely problem-free awareness, you don't say that it was not there earlier, now I see it, then it has gone again. No, it's always available. Once you see it, it's always there. And you also realize it's completely available totally to everybody all the time. Whereas the vision of God is not available to everybody all the time. It comes by the special grace of God and a lot of preparation for the yogi. So, yes, those are extraordinary experiences. Here it's in another way. Whether you have a worldly experience like this or a vision of God, both, remember, are appearing to you, the consciousness. Whereas this Vedantic inquiry is about you, the consciousness, not about a worldly or a supernatural experience. The Vedantic experience can be called mystical because it's so tremendous. But at the same time, it comes with the clear knowledge that it's always there, always available to everybody. Just that we don't see it, you see it. And once having seen it, you can't unsee it. It's choiceless. Once having walked through the doors, you can't walk back again. Whereas mystical experiences, they come and go. Some people, some mystics may have it once or twice in their lives, and they're valid experiences. They're not hallucinations. So the valid mystical experiences are tremendously life-changing. You can never forget them in your whole life. But remember, you can never forget them. It's not that you're always seeing it. Not that it's choiceless. It comes through tremendous effort and grace, those visions. This is just the background of every experience, both spiritual and worldly. This is the very reality, very fabric of reality which you're beginning to see. It's at the same time more basic than everything else, and also the final word of everything. It's the final culmination of everything.
Thank you.
Nisargadatta Maharaj was once asked, yes.
You have permission, one more question.
And she's also got one question. I'll come to you. Nisargadatta Maharaj, we have already run out of time. Anyway, it's interesting. We carry it on for a couple of minutes more. Nisargadatta Maharaj was once asked, have you had these mystical experiences which mystics talk about? He said, I've had some, but they're all extraordinary experiences and very valuable. But what I have got after this, I don't need anything more. That established in that, I mean, after which nothing higher is there. There's nothing higher than that. And Sri Ramakrishna made it the most basic of all things. He said, tie this knowledge to the hem of your dress, the sari which the Indian women wear. They tie the key of the house to the hem of the dress. Tie this knowledge to the hem of your dress and then do whatever else you like. You be a mystic. You serve the world in a selfless way as long as the body lasts. Or you remain plunged in meditation, mystical meditation. Whatever you do is fine, because it's done on the basis of knowledge of reality. Yes, I'll come to you and then do you have the microphone? All right, you can ask.
Pranam Swamiji, my name is Badri. Advaita Vedanta focuses on universal oneness, but I had a question on should there be any prosecution in samsara? Can we not say good things and forgive everyone? That was just
Oh, no, I'm not very clear. In samsara, universal oneness, yes, and then in samsara,
if somebody does something bad, like a thief example, that
put them in jail. There's no doubt about it. You forgive them, know that they're Brahman, and then put them in jail. No doubt about it. So, it's like when you realize the ornament is made of gold. Now, you still know that the necklace goes here, and the bracelet goes here, and the ring goes here, even though they're made of the same gold. But you know what they are and how they are to be used. Similarly, in Vyavahara, in transaction, you know the appropriate thing to do. But you will do it much more skillfully, without fear, without hatred, in fact, with a feeling of oneness. Does it? Your love will transform that person. It could. Depending. If a person is close to being transformed, your love might transform that person. And holy person's love often is very powerful. It transforms. There are many, many, many such cases. Or that person might require a little bit of time in jail to come to the senses. Who knows where people are? But everywhere it's not punishment. It's not punitive. The enlightened person realizes that they are all Brahman And as individual beings, all are on the evolution towards spiritual realization. Who says that jail might not be useful for me for spirituality? Might be. Who knows? Who knows? Extraordinary things have happened. Yeah. Last question.
I was, when you were reading, I was just thinking about it. Who am I, comma, to whom belong all these worldly bondages? If I answer who am I, then how does this question, to whom belong all these worldly bondages? How does that...
It will dissolve, it says, it will dissolve by this inquiry.
So to whom does all these worldly bondages?
Yes, you'll notice. Does this bondage belong to all the sufferings in the world? Does it belong to the body? The body itself doesn't suffer. It's a machine, it's a biological machine. It's the sentient being in the body, the embodied person, I, who am suffering. But who is this I? Pure consciousness by itself has no suffering. We even got a little glimpse of it as just the problem-free awareness. If I can even visualize myself, can make a thought experiment and see myself as this problem-free awareness, I begin to see by itself it has no suffering. Then who is the one suffering? So it is this awareness, this is the sentient being, the consciousness which we are, in some strange alliance with the body, having forgotten my awareness nature and thinking that I am the body. I suffer through the natural processes which the body is subjected to. I am conscious. And in the body, there's some problem in the body and I feel a flash of pain. I feel I am in pain. I have been insulted. I have failed. That person has gone ahead of me in life. Jealousy, sorrow, physical pain. All of these are felt by the sentient being, the jiva. Who is that jiva? If you inquire, it's Brahman. If you don't inquire, it's a jiva, it's me. So inquiry will set you free from this.
So the uninquired being suffers.
The uninquired, yes, avicharita, very well put. Avicharita, uninquired. And this works, all of this works only if Vedanta is right, that the source of our problems is ignorance. If the source of our problems is not ignorance, if it is really a world created by a real creator who has trapped us in this world, no matter how much inquiry you keep doing, if it's really a snake, not a rope, and we are not mistaken, we think it's a snake, no matter how much inquiry you do, it will be a snake, it might come to bite you also. So the whole Vedantic paradigm that you are Brahman, you don't know it, by knowing it you'll be free, therefore inquire. That is crucial. That's worth inquiring into itself. Is that a correct paradigm or not? We'll leave it with that question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In taking your time, very regularly coming and visiting us, and inspiring all the Vedantic seekers all the times, and also fielding questions from several of the devotees. And thank you again for your time. And one announcement, next week, next Saturday, we have a full day program starting at 10 a.m. and ending around 6:30 p.m. Swami Sarvapriyanandaji from Toronto will be here. In the morning, we have puja and homam. We are doing first time the homam outside. It will be happening. And lunch will be provided. And evening, we have discourse from Swami, followed by Aarti. Please kindly make it a point, that is, whoever it is possible join. And please try to register today, that is for better planning. And just I thought I can just share with you. And we will take a short 5 to 10 minutes stretch break now, and we will assemble for